Welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I will show you how to make the Baby It's Cold Outside hat. This hat uses 3 colors of Red Heart's Chic Sheep by Marley Bird yarn, but it can easily be made with just 1 color or many colors. These are just a few of the color combinations that I really like. I know there are 6 colors here, and I could use all 6 colors if I want, but I could just choose maybe 1 color or mix and match 3 different colors. And I thought it would be good to show you some color combos that I love. This is Vineyard, Green Tea, Sangria, Fairy Tale, Dragon Fruit, and Velvet. These colors together make for a really beautiful finished garment. Along with the yarn, you will need a pair of scissors, a size 5mm crochet hook or a US size H or 8, a bent tip tapestry needle, and a tape measure. Of course, once you have the materials, you're going to need that free pattern, and it's available over at marleybird.com. I've put a link to the free pattern and the materials in the video description box right down there below this video. And while you're down there, take a minute and smash that like button, as my kids say, to let other people know you enjoyed this video. Okay, get your materials, the free pattern, and let's make this super cute hat. This hat pattern starts with the cuff of the hat, so go ahead, take your yarn, put the tail of the yarn in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and your middle finger, and then cross it over. Rotate your hand over, and if you go underneath the front loop and grab the back loop and take that off of your fingers, you are left with a slip knot. Now that slip knot is directly on my hook, and I will begin by chaining 4. We are going to work the cuff lengthwise, so these 4 chains will become 3 stitches by working a single crochet in the second loop from hook, or the second chain from hook. We never count the loop on our hook, so there's 1 and here's 2, and I will place a single crochet in that second chain. Now I will place a single crochet in the next 2 chains. I now have a total of 3 single crochets. As I chain 1 and turn, this next row is the repeat row I will work for the entire cuff, and I will work all of these stitches in the back leg only. As you're looking at your stitches, and we have our stitches just resting like so, I'm going to use my tapestry needle to point something out. This loop right here, this leg, right there, that is the front loop. If you kind of rotate so you're looking straight down at your work, this loop right there, that's your back leg or your back loop. You can go through both loops just like so that way it looks like you have a V on your hook, or you can just put your loop through the front, or the hook through the front loop, or your hook through the back loop. You will always follow along what the pattern tells you to do. For this pattern, we want to do all of these stitches in the back loop only. That means I will do a single crochet by only putting that hook through that back loop of that first stitch and any subsequent stitch. So I'm going to complete my single crochet right there. And then I go to the next stitch and I will work my single crochet through the back loop only. And then I'll do that in the last stitch because there's only 3 stitches. Chain 1 and turn, and I will do this all again. As you are working along, you will notice that you are beginning to get a ridge or a ribbed type look in the stitches. And that's what we want for the cuff of the hat. Okay, so I've done a couple rows here. Let me get to the end of this row and show you what I have. You can see this ridge or ribbed type look that's happening on both sides of the fabric. We are creating a single crochet through the back loop only ribbing, and that's what our cuff is. Now, as we make our cuff, we want to make sure that it's long enough to go around the head of the person that's wearing the hat. The thing here is that you want to make sure that the cuff is not too loose, okay? It's a fine line of making sure that it's not so tight you're going to restrict the head or so loose that it's just going to fall down. You want to make sure that as you finish this cuff, you can wrap it around the head, and it has it pulls a little bit before it joins, okay? Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to push this out of the way and bring one in that I've already completed. And this is the cuff made up to the length that I think works. And this length here, let me put it around my head. I'm going to pull this loop out just to make sure it doesn't undo. As I put this around my head, you can see, so if I don't pull on it, that's where it lands. But as I pull it closed, you can see I have a little bit of stretch here, but it's not so tight around my head that it's restrictive, but it's definitely not going to fall off, okay? Now, as I set this down, just unpull, just kind of nice and relaxed, I can tell you that the length of my ribbing before it is stretched is about 19 inches. But you'll notice that if I'm making the adult medium size, I want it to be about 23 inches. Well, I can easily take this and stretch it to 23 without any problem whatsoever. Let's see, can you see that? Without any problem. And so if I had made this ribbing to meet 23 inches without the stretch, it would be far too large. So you want to make sure that as you make this ribbing, you're making it the perfect size for you, okay? So once you have the ribbing completed, we have to join it to form a circle because hats are in circles. So let's go ahead and do that now. What I want to do now is go ahead and take my work and grab the foundation chains here at the very start and match that up to where my work is. I will go ahead, chain one and turn, and making sure this is not twisted. You want to make sure nothing's twisted here. I want to work through the back loop only of the row I'm on, okay, and through the foundation chain loop that I have free right there. Can you see that loop that's free on my foundation chain? So I'm going to stick my hook through that as well. So working through both fabrics, I will work a slip stitch. So I pulled up a loop, and then I pull that loop through the one on my hook. Go to the back leg of the next stitch, go to the open loop of the foundation chain on the other side, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on my hook. I have one more here to complete, because remember I have 3 stitches, and I have completed my round. So as I set this down, you can see it's now joined to work in the round. It looks rather seamless. It looks really good. It doesn't matter whether you ended with the slip knot down here at the bottom or at the top. Either way, it's going to be just fine. We'll weave in that slip knot and it'll be hidden. At this point, we need to set up the stitches around the cuff of our hat so that way we can begin to build the body of the hat. We will do that by evenly crocheting single crochets around the edge of the cuff that we created. Now, one really wonderful tip that my friend Ellen Gormley gave when she did her free pattern day on her YouTube channel was to add stitch markers to help you divide up the cuff so that way you can evenly space out the stitches. That's something I love to do, so I'm going to show you how to do it right here as well. If you take your cuff and you grab stitch markers, we're going to grab some removable stitch markers here. And I'm just going to eyeball this, and I'm going to, my cuff is just laying down flat. I'm going to take a stitch marker and put it about the halfway point on this side. Okay. And I'm going to do a halfway point on this side. And then knowing that this starting point will be a halfway point if I were to do it let me do it this way so that you can easily see. I'm going to make those 2 halfway points meet up. Put a stitch marker here at the beginning. Put a stitch marker over here at about this halfway. And as I set this down, I now have the cuff divided up roughly into 4 even sections. Now I can take the total number of stitches I need to crochet around my cuff, divide that by 4, and as long as I put that number of single crochets in each section, I will make sure that I have a correct number of single crochets as evenly spaced out as possible. So for this example, I'm making the adult medium, and I need to single crochet a total of 76 single crochets around this cuff. So I will place 19, 19, 19, and 19. I do want to remind you, I am working 76 single crochets for this round, but you want to be sure to follow along with the pattern for the size you're making. Do the number of single crochets you need to do for the size you want your hat to ultimately be, okay? I will go ahead and pick up my work, and I'm not turning my work. I want to make sure you guys are clear here. I've just finished the slip stitches. Everything is still in its place, and I'm not turning my work, okay? I will grab my yarn here, and I'm literally just going to work along the edges here and try and get my 19 single crochet to that first marker. That's 10, so I need to get 9 more. This would make 19. When you get your 19th stitch, or whatever your stitch count is, go ahead, take the marker out that you were working towards, and place that marker in that last stitch you created. That's the V that's behind the loop on your hook. I'm going to place my marker right there in that stitch. The reason I'm placing my marker right here is because as I do this next section of 19, say I accidentally do too few or too many, I want to make sure I have a point that I can rip back to and not accidentally undo any of the 19 that I've already created, okay? So that's why I move my stitch marker to the stitch I just finished working. So now I have to do another 19. There's 10, so I have 9 more to make from there to there. It looks like it's going to be a little bit squished. I probably spaced those out a little bit more than I should have, but I can make this work. And here is my number 9 for 19. I'm going to take my marker out, and I again will place it, as I throw it. I'm going to grab a new one because I just threw it across the room. And I will place it in that V behind the loop on my hook. So I'm just going to place it right there so I have a point of reference to go back to. Can you see how this makes it so it's as evenly spaced as possible without giving you specifics of where you need to put your hook or how many stitches you need to put at the end of each row? Because I gave you a lot of leniency on how many rows you do for the cuff of your hat, okay? So you could have done more than I did or fewer than I did, I don't know, but if it fits the hat you're making, then this is the best way to evenly space out the single crochets. So we're going to do this all the way around until we get back to the very beginning. When you make that 19th stitch, go ahead and in that first single crochet you completed, we will join with a slip stitch. So I'm going through both loops. Can you see I'm going through both loops of that single crochet I started with, yarning over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. Okay, and at this point we want to finish off our work. So we will cut our yarn leaving at least 4 to 6 inches so that way we can weave in that tail later without any problem. And then just pull that yarn up and it tightens up that yarn nice and neat. You can see here it doesn't look like much. I have a nice little cuff. If I set it up like this would be around the head, and we're going to build the body of the hat up this direction. Okay. Now the rest of the hat is done in individual rounds. We will work a full round of V-stitches, cut the yarn, and then join new yarn to make another round of V-stitches. Now I'm going to choose some really fun colors here as I'm making my hat because I want something fun and funky and bright. So let's kind of dive in and see what colors I end up using for my hat example here. And the first up is going to be green tea. I love this green tea color. It's one of my favorites in the entire collection of Chic Sheep Yarn, and we're going to start with this color. So we want to begin with a slip knot on our hook. So we will create our slip knot once again and place that slip knot directly on your hook. And what we will start off here with is a standing double crochet. So once you have that slip knot on your hook, we want to go ahead and yarn over our hook just like we would if we were doing a double crochet. And then with the hand that's holding the hook, hold on to that yarn over so it doesn't go anywhere, okay? Now, working into any stitch you can here on the start of your cuff, any single crochet, I want you to work this standing double crochet into a single crochet. And I'm going to start here at the very beginning because I like that place. So I'm going to take my hook and go under both loops of a single crochet. Notice I haven't let go of this yet. I will yarn over my hook and pull up a loop. See, I have 3 loops on my hook just like I would if I was doing a double crochet, correct? Now I will yarn over, draw through 2 loops, yarn over, draw through 2 loops. Haha, see how that looks like a double crochet? It's a really wonderful way to start off a stitch instead of using the chain stitches like most patterns will have you start off with when you're starting with a double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet, whatever it is. We're starting with a standing stitch, so that way this actual stitch looks like a double crochet. Now we want to go ahead and continue on by working a chain 1 and a double crochet into that same stitch we started off into. So I will work another double crochet into that same stitch. What I've created here is a V-stitch. I have a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. This is the stitch we are going to repeat all the way around. So what I will do now is I will skip a single crochet, and in the next single crochet, I will work a double, a chain 1, and a double. And that is a V-stitch for this pattern. There is no chain 1 or anything between these V-stitches. We want a double, chain 1, double, skip a single crochet, and then in the next single crochet, we work a V-stitch, which is a double, chain 1, and a double. You see that? So we're getting these nice V-stitches worked all the way around on these single crochets we created. This is the first round we do. This first round we're working into single crochet stitches. In the next round, we will actually work in those chain 1 spaces we're creating when we make the V-stitch. So let's go all the way around with these V-stitches in the single crochets. I forgot to tell you that we no longer need these stitch markers that are marking our stitches for our first round of single crochet. So if you want to take those out now, you absolutely can do that. We don't need those anymore. As you come to the end of the round and you make your last V-stitch, you want to finish the round with a slip stitch into the top of that very first standing double crochet you completed. So we will go through both loops right there at the start, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull that through the loop on your hook. We are going to cut our yarn because we will cut our yarn every round for this pattern, and we will weave in those ends. Pull your hook up, it tightens up that stitch, and you will notice, let's pull these to the wrong side so you can kind of get an idea of how this stitch will look. As I set this down, I have a really beautiful stitch pattern that is beginning. Now the fun thing about the Baby It's Cold Outside hat is that even though this stitch pattern seems like it's holy, it actually provides a lot of warmth, especially with the Chic Sheep yarn because it's 100% washable wool. So this is a really great hat pattern and it does keep you super warm. Another fantastic thing about this hat is that now that we know how to do the V-stitch, the next stitch round is super easy because it's essentially a repeat of what we've just done, only this time we will place all of the V-stitches into that chain one space that we've created with the V-stitches we just made. So go ahead, grab your next color or use the same color you're working with, whatever you decide. And my next color, I think it'll be, I'm going to use Velvet, which is this really beautiful sort of army green color that doesn't get enough love. It is so pretty and it's perfect partnered up with the green tea. So for this next round, we begin with a standing double crochet. So I want to place a slip knot on my hook. Okay, and I will do my yarn over on my hook. Remember, I want to hold it so it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm going to start off right here in this first V-stitch, and I'm going to go into that chain one space. So I put my hook in there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through two, yarn over, draw through two. Chain one, and do another double crochet in that same chain one space. And we are on our way. So just like before, we do not chain one or anything between our V-stitches. We go to the next V-stitch, into that chain one space, and make a V-stitch. And we will do this all the way around. When you come to the end of your round, once again, you will join with a slip stitch into that first standing double crochet you created. So we will join with a slip stitch, cut your yarn, leaving at least 4 to 6 inches so that you can weave it in later. Pull up your tail, give it a tug, and here you go. You have a really nice body of the hat beginning here. Now, here's the really cool part. The rest of the body of the hat is just a repeat of round 2. You will follow along with the pattern, repeating round 2 for the number of times you need to for the size you're making. Make sure you maintain whatever color sequence you're using for your hat, whether it's 3 colors, 2 colors, 1 color, 5 colors, whatever it may be. Just maintain that sequence and repeat round 2 until the body of your hat is complete. Once the body of the hat is the size it's supposed to be, we can move on to the crown. Okay, here is the body of my hat. You can see I obviously used more than 3 colors. I figured I had the colors here, why not go big or go home? So I literally used all the colors I showed you at the very beginning, and I am following along a really nice sequence, and I'm ready to start the crown of the hat. Now the crown of the hat is this part of the hat, and it's where we begin to do the shaping so that way the hat comes to a close at the very end. So go ahead, grab the next color in your sequence, and let's start. The next color of my sequence is my dragon fruit, and I begin with the standing double crochet in the chain one space just like before. So I will start off with my standing double crochet, chain one, and then double crochet in the same chain one space. Now here's where things are going to get different. In the next chain one space, I want to do a double crochet, just one double crochet, and that is it, okay? In the next chain one space, I'll do my V-stitch. In the following chain one space, I do my double crochet. Now I will repeat these 2 stitches, the double crochet in one chain one space and the V-stitch in the next chain one space, all the way around. Crochet. And then you will join to the first standing double crochet with a slip stitch just like you've been doing all the other rounds, okay? We'll go ahead, finish that off, and we will start the next round with a new color. Now, one thing I do want to point out right here, I have been weaving in my tails as I go along, so that way I don't wait till the very end to do it because I hate doing that. So I'm going to take a second here and weave in my tail before I move on. And when I weave in my ends here, I like to go down one of the stitches. So it's like I go down the post of the stitch. I come across both stitches that were worked into the chain one space, and then I come back the opposite direction, and then I come back up the post of the stitch. All the while just making sure I'm not making this post stitch too squatty and everything is just nice and secure. Give that a good snip, and then I go ahead and I do that with the second one as well. You could wait to the very end to do this. As I said, I like to do it as I go along because I hate waiting to the very end to work in ends. I much prefer to do it as I am going along. So that way when I'm done with the project, I am officially done. I don't have to wait until I'm done with all of the ends. All right, so I'm gonna go up this last double crochet here that I made. Went up and down. I like to go back and forth a couple directions. All right, so there you go. That's how I weave in my ends. So I'm at the end here of round one of my crown, and I have V-stitches separated by a double crochet, V-stitch, double crochet, V-stitch, double crochet. On the next round, what I will do is I will start off with the standing double crochet, chain one, double crochet, just like before, and then I will skip the double crochet and V-stitch in the next V-stitch. Skip the double crochet, V-stitch in the next V-stitch. So we're going to work one more round here. So let's grab the next color in our sequence. The next color for me is green tea. So I will start off with my standing double crochet into that first chain one space like I've been doing all along. Chain one and then double crochet again into that chain one space. Okay. And then I am going to skip this single double crochet I worked and come over here to the next V-stitch and the chain one space and work my V-stitch. Okay, so let's do this, and we will repeat this all the way around. Skip the double, come over to the chain one space and work our V-stitch. As you're going around this round, you'll notice that it goes rather quickly because we're eliminating stitches. So it goes really quick. You'll skip the last double crochet you did and you will join with a slip stitch to the first standing double crochet, just like before. Finish it off, cut your tail, leaving a nice long tail. Go ahead and weave in that tail if you're like me, and we'll move on to the next round. Okay, the next color in my sequence is velvet, so I have that on my hook, and I begin with my standing double crochet. Now, this particular round we're getting ready to do is just like round one of the crown. So we will place a V-stitch in the chain one space of the first one, and then we'll do a double crochet in the next chain one space, and then V-stitch and then double crochet and then V-stitch and double crochet all the way around. This is how we're condensing down to where we get the fewest number of stitches as possible. So let's go ahead and do this. We begin with our standing double crochet, and I'm going to do that right here, and chain one and then double crochet in the same chain one space. Now I am going to give you a little tip here. As we're working around the top of this crown, the top of the hat, these stitches are all going to start coming together. And one thing that I like to do is make sure that I don't overextend my stitches as I transition from one stitch to the next. So as I'm working along, I tend to take the fabric and push it over to where my stitch that I just created is, so that way I'm not overextending my loops that are on the hook. I also will hold the loops on the hook in place a little bit more, very similar to how I do when I start off the standing double crochet. And it just makes it so that way my loops don't get so big that my stitches in between each other, or the space in between my stitches, gets really large. I don't like that. So I tend to hold the loops on my hook to make sure that they hold their position. So here, let me show you. I just finished the V-stitch. I'm over here to the next one. and I'm going to do my double crochet. Notice I have my finger on my loops the whole time, making sure they don't get too big. I just yarned over, I'm holding that loop again, and I'm coming to the next V-stitch, and I'm in the chain one space, and I will create my V-stitch. See what I mean here? And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that as I'm closing this top of the hat, as I'm closing the crown, see how my stitches still look nice and consistent right here as they do down here. They aren't overextended or just too big and sloppy. I don't like that. So this is how I make sure when I'm closing the top of a hat, and this goes for any hat pattern, I tend to make sure I hold those loops on my hook to make sure that the stitches are nice and consistent. Okay, as I come up to my very last V-stitch that I've got to create, for the size I'm making, I am actually ending with the V-stitch. And so a V-stitch will be right next to the starting V-stitch, and that's perfectly fine. And so I will just join with a slip stitch, just like before, finish it off just like before, and weave in my ends just like before. Now, I do want to point out that you should be following the pattern still for the crown of the hat. And you'll notice that the crown is just a repeat of these two rounds, where it's a round of V-stitches and doubles, and then a round of just V-stitches. And you do this through round 6, and then we'll finish off the work. When you get done with your round 6, you want to go ahead and cut your tail, leaving it a little bit longer than you have the previous ones, because we are going to use this tail to seam together the top of this hat. Okay, so I've cut the tail, and as you know, I've been weaving my tails in all along. So all I'm going to do here is thread this last tail I have here, not including this one. Of course, I have to tuck that in on the inside. Now, up at the top, what I want to do is take my tapestry needle, and working through the front loops only of all of the stitches on this final round, I am just going to thread my needle through it. And I'm working through the front loops only all the way around. And what this is going to do when I pull the tail is pull the top of this hat together like a drawstring, and it's going to be a very nice, beautiful finish. And then I will secure the tail to the inside of the hat, and it will not come undone. So I'm going to keep going here. Make sure it go all the way around to the beginning. Don't forget those chain one spaces. I'm working into those as well. All the way to the start here. I think that's the start. That's my beginning. I'll do, there's the last one. Oh, and I lost it, of course. It's because I was messing around too much. Just rethread it on. Get the last one here. All right, now here's the magic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull on this tail, and you'll notice it's pulling closed the top of the hat. See how pretty that is? It's a nice, beautifully closed top of the hat. Now I'll take my needle and I'll thread it right through that center bit, pull it to the inside, make sure it's still nice and secure. Look how pretty that is. See what I mean? That is just beautiful. Now what I could do is turn my hat inside out, and still keeping this circle nice and closed, I take my yarn that's still attached to my tapestry needle, and I just start to close the top of the hat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave back and forth across this area, making sure I'm not altering any of that puckering bit there at the center, but I just want this to stay nice and secure. So I'm grabbing those back loops that I didn't work into, and I'm just threading back and forth through them across those open stitches. And what that's going to do is just weave in my tail, right, like so. You see on the other side, it's still this nice, very beautiful sort of floret looking stitch. Everything is stitched on the inside. Can go ahead and snip that tail. Of course, I've got my one last tail here to weave in. So let me do that, and then I will try this super cute hat on for you. All right, so my ends are woven in. Here is my super cute hat. I love these colors. I'm so happy with these colors. Okay, are you ready for the truth? Let's try it on. All right, here we go. Is it gonna look good? Oh, this is so cute. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Look how cute that is. Oh my gosh, I think I love these colors more than the original. Oh my gosh, these colors are so fantastic. Oh, this is so fun. How much fun would it be with a multicolored pom-pom right on the top? Oh my gosh, I think I might make a pom-pom. I don't know. Oh, this is beautiful. I love it. I hope you love your Baby It's Cold Outside hat just as much as I love mine. If you do make one, please share with me on social media. Use hashtag #MarleyBird so that way I can find your hat and I can smash your like button just like you've done my videos. If you want more videos just like this one, make sure you hit subscribe so you're up to date whenever I release new videos, and sign up for the Marley Bird newsletter. There's always updates in there for new patterns, new videos, and new classes that I'm teaching around the country. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and this was the Baby It's Cold Outside hat. I love it so much, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining me today on the channel. If you want more videos just like that one, check out some of these other videos that I've already handpicked for you. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that way you're up to date whenever I release a new video. And don't forget, smash that like button, as my kids say. Bye guys.